Hey soldiers, did you know China banned the export of natural sand to Taiwan? And do you know how important that is? This conflict between the United States and China over Taiwan exposes a potential economic opportunity. And we're going to get into that. China has made no bones about the fact that they are preparing for war. Meanwhile, the United States looks as though it's doing the same. We've got the Ronald Reagan Carrier Battle Group near Taiwan. Meanwhile, China's doing military drills. But where is the economic opportunity? Now, we hope and pray that we don't go to war. But right now, just within the existing framework of the situation, there lies a tremendous economic opportunity. And this sand ban has a lot to do with it.
Beijing has also halted exports of natural sands to Taiwan. One-type quartz sand is an important raw material for chip manufacturing, which Taiwan is known for. So, in addition to affecting infrastructure construction, chip making in Taiwan could also take a significant hit, and that could well spill over to overall economic activity.
Okay, soldiers, I'm not telling you to go and invest in sand or go to your local beach and load up on it, although sand is a very integral aspect in the production of semiconductors. Now, as I said at the onset, China is preparing for war. This is getting hotter and hotter. Last month, a Chinese entrepreneur making medical equipment for consumers divulged that local officials had demanded he convert his production lines in China so that they could turn out items for the military. So they're retooling their manufacturing infrastructure to be able to turn out military equipment. You don't do this unless you are preparing for war. Because if he is manufacturing medical equipment, you got to believe that that is going to contribute to the tax base there in China. Okay, because he's going to be able to sell that equipment around the world. Now, China's not asking him to do this to become a defense contractor so that they can sell the munitions or whatever it is they've got him manufacturing, maybe first aid types of equipment for their military. No, they're doing this for the purposes to support the Chinese military, the People's Liberation Army and People's Liberation Army Navy. So this individual is saying that similar orders have been issued to other manufacturers within China. Another indicator, Chinese academics privately say the ongoing expulsion of foreign colleagues from China's universities appears to be preparation for hostilities. China has also amended its national defense law, and this was effective the first day of 2021. They have transferred powers, a lot of the powers that were held by civilian authorities in China, they've transferred those powers to military officials. Now, what you have to understand as an American, and if you're in one of these Western democracies, we're used to civilian control of the military. Well, China's system is a bit different. There is a greater degree of autonomy possessed by the military than we would be familiar with here, for example, in the United States. In general, these amendments reduce the role of the central government's state council by shifting power to the CMC, the Communist Party's Central Military Commission. Specifically, the state council will no longer supervise mobilization of the People's Liberation Army. So that one function, one of the functions that they had as a group of civilians has been transferred over to the military. Now, some might say that if you're going to war, you let the military fight it. If you let the civilians fight it like you do here in America, it doesn't always turn out right. Afghanistan. The CMC is now formally in charge of making national defense policy and principles, while the State Council becomes a mere implementing agency to provide support for the military. Richard Fisher of the Virginia-based International Assessment and Strategy Center said the amendments point to China's ambitions to achieve whole nation levels of military mobilization to fight wars and give the CMC formal power to control the future Chinese capabilities of global military intervention. Xi Jinping made a major speech. It was televised all over China back in 2019, where he said, be ready for war. So one thing about the Asian philosophy and mindset is that it exemplifies patience and long-term planning. This is a little different here in the West with our philosophy, especially of late. And of late, I mean, in the past 100 years, we've been more predilected to, kind of instant solutions. Or we do the 5-year plan, okay? And China does a 100-year plan. So just a difference in philosophy. I'm not saying that one is greater than the other necessarily, but each may have merits in different situations. We've got to understand that this is not something new, that China has been preparing for this. And when Nancy Pelosi went over, she basically agitated that situation. Ed Markey went over, further inflame things. And then we got a third congressional delegation going over. So how did China respond to Nancy Pelosi's visit? Well, they banned exports to Taiwan. Taiwan's importing it, of natural sand. Now, natural sand is used, as you probably know, in the manufacture of the all-important semiconductor. We cannot operate modern society without the semiconductor. This medium that we're communicating on now is enabled by the all-precious semiconductor. Now, this move by China is a signal to the entire world, whether China knows it or not, of how precarious the situation is with regard to the manufacture of semiconductors. And this is where our opportunity lies. I think that the world is waking up to the fact that Taiwan can no longer be this kind of sole source of this vital component of modern life, of the modern economy. Taiwan alone accounts for over 60% of these vital chips, and the manufacture of over 60%. So if ever there was a case for diversification, here it is. Here's the problem. The process is knowledge intensive, and Taiwan Semiconductor has the world's wealth of knowledge in this area. Okay, General Motors tried to get into the business and produce their own chips for their vehicles. They fell flat on their face. They don't have the institutional knowledge to make it happen. So one of the aspects of the recent CHIPS bill is kind of to provide some money for Taiwan Semiconductor to set up a plant in the United States that would allow them to bring over their manufacturing expertise and be able to conduct this vital manufacturing job here in America, away from the military forces of China. Now, the problem is this is not an instant process. It's going to take at least 2 years to set the plant up, okay, once this gets rolling. And the way the rhetoric is flying back and forth, we may be in a hot war with China before that happens. God forbid, but that may occur first. But where we are right now seems to be incentive enough for the current semiconductor companies to get their act together and to start to build on this institutional knowledge and create these infrastructures where we can have a diversified sector instead of the high concentration that we have centered in Taiwan right now. Now, I'm not telling you what to invest in. I am telling you what I am looking at investing in. There are several companies that do manufacture these chips. Among these companies are Broadcom, Intel, Qualcomm. We even have South Korean-based Samsung, among others. Now, I will say that with Samsung, they are a very, very powerful company. We know them with regard to the phones and maybe even some televisions here in America. But they do a heck of a lot more in South Korea. They are pretty ubiquitous over there. However, we can't invest in that company directly if we chose to, but there are different ways you can enjoy the success of that company or own that company. One way is Merrill Lynch has a international brokerage, and you can open an account with them to invest in certain companies that don't have American depository receipts. An American depository receipt is basically the vehicle by which you would invest in a company that is not actually publicly traded here in the United States of America. Now, I don't know how that works in other countries, but the American Depository Receipt is how it works here. But you still can get in on Samsung via the Merrill Lynch International Brokerage. Of course, that's one way. Another would include various ETFs as well. Now, I am not telling you to invest in Samsung. You have to decide that on your own after you do copious amounts of due diligence. But at this point, we do know that an aspect of globalization is falling flat. Now, I've said before, and I'll say it again, there is no reason why the United States of America should have such a vital component of our everyday lives and economy manufactured to such a degree in a country that is in dispute with a major world power, okay? It is unfortunate that China and Taiwan are at loggerheads over this issue. However, they need to work that out. And I don't want to be in a position where my life is affected one way or the other, depending on how they decide to work things out. And on the flip side, if we do go to war against China over this issue, you can best believe that there won't be the degree of chips coming out of Taiwan that are coming out of there now during a war. And what happens after the war? Are there any winners? If China loses, then are they still going to be agitating the situation? What are we prepared to do as the United States of America to continue to ensure the security of Taiwan? If we lose, and that's a possibility. I mean, don't underestimate an enemy. And China is definitely an adversary in this instance. If we lose, then China controls 63% of the world's semiconductor manufacturing. Okay, and that won't be a good thing for us if we just came off of a war with them. Not to mention the fact we have stupidly allowed many of our defense much of our defense apparatus to be beholden to chips coming out of Taiwan. China takes that over. Do we really trust that? All right. Do we really? So South Korea is a stronger ally. Strategically, though, they are always at risk from the madman up in North Korea. So that's not the absolute best situation. Bringing that here to America using the expertise of the people that are in place over at Taiwan Semiconductor with all their institutional knowledge, bringing them over here, setting up shop here, I believe is the best. That's the best way to go about this. Taiwan Semiconductor is traded on the New York Stock Exchange. You can do your due diligence a lot easier on that stock than you might be able to do on Qualcomm since it's not traded here in America. But suffice it to say, America and the rest of the world is waking up to the fact that modern society ceases to exist without the semiconductor. It's something that we haven't thought of, but if we're going into this situation where this particular component could be constrained, okay, we definitely need to diversify. We've got 63% of that capacity being manufactured in a disputed country. So there's an opportunity there for diversification. And I think that all reasonable minds would concur that this is something that is going to increase in popularity as the society becomes more technically advanced. And it's definitely something that needs to be optimally manufactured in the most politically stable country in the world, one of them. And I know you can argue whether or not America's politically stable. We're looking like a banana republic in many respects right now. But I would say that we are more stable in terms of not having to deal with an external conflict than Taiwan is. We do have two oceans that serve as pretty substantial moats. And if your military does not have expeditionary capability, then you're going to have a tough time invading the United States of America. All right, guys, what I want you to do right now is take a look at this video we did. We're talking about Jerome Powell and inflation and what the rock and hard place he's currently in terms of raising rates. Did you know if he raises rates, he also raises the interest rates that the United States is responsible for paying on its national debt. Who's ultimately responsible for that? Go look in the mirror and you'll see the person, one of them. Take a look at this video, understand that situation. You gotta understand what's going on in this world so that you know how to profit. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.